Welcome to Choose Cyber, where we will be discussing different cybersecurity roles to close the cybersecurity career knowledge gap. My name is Christina Mortimer, and I will be focusing on the CISSP 8 domains to cover roles in risk management, IAM, security operations, and so much more. Today, I will be talking to an information security, governance, risk, and compliance solutions architect who has experience in the field for over 20 years, Arturo Santos. We will be talking about things like what is GRC, who is a solutions architect, and what does a solutions architect actually do? As always, make sure to subscribe and like the video so you wouldn't miss out on the next one. So let's get to it. What is your educational background and how did you actually become interested in cybersecurity?
Well, thank you, Christina. I want to also commend you for doing this. This is a very interesting project that you're working on your own. I started working in cybersecurity by coincidence. I was initially an IT developer. My background initially was in computer science with a master's in business administration. And while I was working for an organization, they started having some requirements to comply with audits, and they needed somebody to take a look at their systems and make sure that they were both secure and compliant with a series of requirements that they had from governmental agencies. That there was no security team in this company, so I volunteered to do the job, and I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. So I started, once I did that initial assessment, I started kind of owning the cybersecurity component of the IT organizations. And so that was probably the first step. Step number two, I've been doing this as a contractor, as an independent contractor for more than 20 years. Step number two, I was working with a company that had a very nice cybersecurity product mainly for archiving and data protection, for data governance in general. It was a fantastic product, but they didn't have a lot of support for clients that were implementing the product. So I started working with them and working with the clients. I also developed some additional modules that they didn't have at the time. And after that company was acquired by IBM. So I started working very closely with IBM. I mentor a lot of people within the IBM group, show them the solutions, and I also started working with IBM clients on this. So that gave me the opportunity also to learn about all the security products that IBM had at the time. So I started working with IBM a long time, learned a lot about all the products, and eventually decided that I was going to just stick to cybersecurity. While working with clients, not every client wanted to just stick to IBM products, and I understood that. And to me, it was more important about solving the problem than selling a product. So I tried to move away from this label that I have, that says IBM, and just become cybersecurity in general and technology agnostic, if you will, and actually help organizations decide which technology is a better solution for what I'm looking for. And that's how that's how it took me to the CISSP certification and other types of learning experiences and job opportunities that led me to where I'm at today.
Awesome. So you are a governance, risk, and compliance solutions architect. I think there's two things that we can unpack here. In your opinion, what is a governance, risk, and compliance, and who is a solutions architect?
Let us start with the solutions architect part.
Sounds good.
That's probably easier. And the solutions architect is somebody who's able to solve problems, right? And the way we solve problems is by designing processes, mainly data flows that are efficient and that are effective and that are secure. That's this. Well, that's when the security component is engaged. But it's still security is it's always a part of a good architecture. Architecture, by the way, architecture is technology agnostic. I want to make a difference and make you understand the difference between architecture and design. Architecture is technology agnostic, is when you design a flow and you establish what has to happen. And the main difference within design is because when you're doing design, you're more granular and you go into the technology and really define what the technology components should be within that.
Interesting.
So a governance, risk, and compliance solutions architect basically solve problems that are related to data governance and risk management, and of course, compliance. Compliance, by the way, it's a huge world because there's a lot of things that we need to comply with.
Right.
Organizations, depending on the business, they need to comply with industry requirements or just legal requirements for their normal operations. And we're talking about data privacy protection. It's a big issue. It's a big concern nowadays, and there's lots of regulations all over the world about that. So that's what the title means. Is somebody that's able to solve problems related to governance, risk, and compliance.
So now that you've given us like the definition or a better understanding what it is that you actually do, could you elaborate a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like? So the types of meetings that you attend, your daily tasks, applications you use, people you interact with, and so on.
Yes, that's, one of the fun things about my job is that I get to interact with a lot of people with many different mindsets, many different perspectives. I have meetings with people from legal department that have lawyers that have their own perspective about compliance and regulation. What is it that needs to happen? And then the next hour, I will have a meeting with a database administrator that has to comply with some requirements, security requirements to encrypt a database. So you're able to switch gears in a very interesting way. I told you I started as a developer, and I still like development a lot. And technology, I consider myself a technology geek. So I like, you're always learning, you're always challenging yourself. So my days are fun. So you can be working with, like I said, legal teams, database administrators, developers, other solutions architects. We do a lot of teamwork in our team. When we do, for instance, threat modeling, we want to have peer reviews to make sure that we are assessing the problems right, proposing the right controls, and it always helps to have peer reviews for our architectures and designs. What else do I do? I answer impromptu questions. I help assess technologies and service providers that are offering different products and solutions for different problems, and making sure that they are secure, that they can be integrated within the bigger scope of the systems that we have in the organization. And a lot of what we do too is documentation. There's a lot of documentation. Some people think of that as a boring part, and sometimes it is, honestly. but it's a much needed thing that we have to do regardless.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
helps a lot. Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I noticed looking at your LinkedIn profile, which I will also link down below for anybody who wants to reach out to you or ask you any more questions, is that you have obtained a lot of licenses and certifications. So how much of those certifications helped you along your career path of becoming a governance, risk, and compliance solutions architect?
It's a good question. What's interesting about I'm just a learner. I like learning. I enjoy learning about new things. Certifications, I started getting those because they open doors. Number one, they really help you when you have those certifications in your LinkedIn profile and your resume. That's how employers know or can attest to your knowledge and expertise. Number one. However, it's really up to the individual. I want to make sure that people understand that when you get a certification, that doesn't mean that your future is already solved.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really up to each person to see what they do with the certification. Some of them I like a lot, the ISC Square certification, the CISSP, especially because there is a code of ethics that you have to abide to. You have probably learned about this already, but part of what you do is you really commit to being a professional in the development and enhancement of your career. And not only for your own good, but for the good, for the general good, which is a great thing. I've been, one of the challenges that I had, I still do, working with technology, is trying to guess what the next big thing is and start learning about some technologies. So the point is that I've taken a lot of certifications that became obsolete probably right after I've learned about this thing. So many of those you won't even see on my resume. But still, you always learn something from anything that you do. Number one, and secondly, you always meet people, and that's always a good thing too. I have lots of friends that were my studying partners in all the way back from college to taking some of the certifications that I have right now. So
yeah, there's study groups everywhere on social media and internet in general. So always
yes,
meet someone to study together with. So what advice would you give someone who's interested in stepping into the governance, risk and compliance field, or more specifically, becoming a solutions architect? Or what are the first steps that they could take?
Well, first and foremost is find your path and find your passion. And there are so many ways that like I said, GRC is a big word. It means many things. It could be some people just like working on the legal side of it, and that's great. And that, by the way, it's a very interesting niche if you have lawyers that are hesitant about their career path. I mean, if they want to follow GRC and compliance as an option, learn a little bit about technology, there's lots of opportunities there. Now, so the first, again, but really, I mean, we're assuming that we're talking to an audience that is interested in IT and technology and security in general. So there are many ways that they can address this. So first off, find what the options are for your career and find something that you like a lot. I became really interested in compliance actually because as a consumer, as a data privacy consumer, I was really upset when I learned that some organization that had information about me was breached, and that now I had at risk that somebody has my information and I don't have control about that. So I'm passionate about that. Still, that's why probably my biggest motivation today is really as a consumer. So I understand the best way to help solve this problem is, becoming a part of the solution. So you have to learn a lot and study a lot. That's number one. Number two, network with people. Talk to peers and fellow students and find mentors that want to work with you. Number three, join organizations. I mean, there are lots of resources, and a lot of them nowadays are just online organizations, or just you can just do a lot of research online. Number three, study. Once you find what you're looking for, set yourself a career path and set up some goals and say, okay, I want to start by getting this certification, and I'm going to start by going into school and look for the cybersecurity degree. Then next step is going to be CISSP certification or something else, whatever the case. But try to set a roadmap, and even if it's a long one, it doesn't matter. I mean, once you set that up, just start going that path, and things will, it's always challenging, and you're always welcome to change roads if you find, hey, I just found out that I really love databases, so I'm going to stick to governance for databases. By all means, do that. Somebody might as you start working with networking, I say, oh, networking is my thing. So, and there's ways to do that. Yeah. If you're looking specifically to become an architect, well, learn about architecture in general. Go to the open source group and learn about their principles for becoming an architect. And, do all this without feeling that you have to commit, that you're going to be forced to do this for the rest of your life. No, just do it with curiosity to see, what is this about? Let's see what it looks like.
Yeah. That's all really good advice, especially the one with setting up a roadmap for yourself. Even if you don't know what you're doing, it's always good to have a goal or something that you want to accomplish to move toward that. And then eventually you can shift from there if you want to. So
yeah, absolutely. And within the roadmap, you can have some milestones that say, okay, I don't know which path I'm going to go. So step number one is to do some research and decide in December or decide next year, whatever it takes.
Exactly.
So that's nothing wrong with that. That's a great, actually an excellent roadmap, a way to start a roadmap.
I agree. So lastly, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? What are your goals? What are your next goals? And what are you looking to accomplish yourself?
I happen to like a lot what I'm doing right now, and I'll probably keep on growing in more leadership positions, probably managing solving bigger problems, I guess, but all within the same concept of protecting privacy. That's, like I said, that's really my passion, and there are many different ways to accomplish that within organizations. Number two, I want to be hopefully having more time to do the things that we don't get paid for, like more mentorship, more volunteering, helping, things get better in general. There's a lot of things I encourage. Also, make it within your roadmap. Once you achieve of your goals, start giving back. Start saying, okay, now I'm going to mentor somebody else. Now I want to be I want to go back to feel what it's like to be in somebody's shoes when they are, like in your position, deciding which way to go and how do I go, where do I go from here?
Exactly.
And help out. There's a lot of help there that's required, and so those are my personal goals. So hopefully I'll love to have time just to do that. And that's hopefully I will.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Arturo. It was a pleasure having you here today. If you wish to connect with Arturo again, feel free to reach out to him on LinkedIn and hit the like and subscribe button if you liked the video, and make sure to stay tuned for the next one.